Hi guys, it's Carol. How are you? I'm having trouble with this tripod, so I'm going to have to hold it with one hand. It keeps flopping down. How are you guys? I'm okay. I'm okay. I thought about not making videos anymore. I've just not been feeling it. I've just not been feeling up to snuff, period, but I did a lot of reading of some good books, and so I thought I'd share these with you, and we'll go from there. See if there's another video. I'm just not sure if I want to keep doing videos. I love hearing from all of you, and I've made some wonderful friends here. But there's some creepy people out there too. But anyway, let's talk about some books. These aren't all cozy mysteries. The last one I read is called The Wishing Quilt. It contains 3 novellas, one by Jody Thomas, which is a woman that lives here in Amarillo, Texas. She's written over 50 novels. She's been inducted into the Romance Writers of America Hall of Fame. She is an excellent author. Sometimes she gets a little explicit for me, but that's just me. Her books are good. She writes a good story. She's a good storyteller. The other authors are Lori Wilde, who's written 75 books, and Patience Griffin. I didn't write down any notes about her. I'd never heard of her. But anyway, The Wishing Quilt was a great book. I loved it. The 3 stories were so good. I wish they'd each have been a book on their own, but they were well worth reading, even though they were short for a novel. They were novellas, and I enjoyed every one of them so much. Like I said, I wish they had each been a book on their own. Each story revolves around something to do with a quilt, and just an excellent book. They were romance. Romance is not my favorite genre, but they weren't explicit too much. They were just good stories. I liked them. Another one I read is Book to Kill For by Harper Lynn. Now, I really liked this one. This is book 1 out of 4. The series is called The Bookish Cafe Mysteries. Maggie Bell is a young woman that works in an old, dusty bookstore. I think it's in Connecticut is where this takes place. Old, dusty bookstore with old, dusty books in it. Owned by an older gentleman. But she's happy there. And then she thinks of him as a sort of a father figure. He thinks of her as a daughter. And then he dies. Everybody asks her immediately, what's going to happen to the bookstore? What's going to happen to the bookstore? I think everybody in town, except for her, knows that it wasn't making any money. He was a sweetheart of a guy, evidently. He played Santa Claus for Christmas. He did kind things for people all throughout his life, none of which she knew of until people at his funeral started coming up and telling her what he did. And he was just one of those type men that just does good. Well, everybody asked her, what's going to happen to the bookstore? She doesn't know. And then his son comes for the funeral. She'd never met the son. And he wants to change the bookstore. He buys the space next door. It's in like a little shopping mall or a group of businesses. He buys the adjoining business, and he wants to make it a cafe and a bookstore, but he doesn't want to sell the old, dusty books his dad has. He wants to have new works. He wants it to be a bookstore where people will come buy things. My arm's getting tired. Let me see. I wish I could prop this up on something. Anyway, she knows that some of the books are valuable, but she has no idea how valuable. He wants her to throw them, the son wants her to throw them out, but she doesn't. She puts them in the back of the building on a bookshelf, and as the story goes along, somebody wants one of those old books, a first edition. And she finds out it's worth over $10,000. She is not going to let it be sold to the person who wants it, because she finds a letter that says the owner of the bookstore had already turned him down, and somebody murders somebody for the book. It's a good cozy mystery. I didn't know who did it. I like the kind where you don't know who did it. I'd like to read the other 3 in this series. I'll see. I read all of these on my phone, on the Kindle app. I don't know if my library has the other 3. I don't think they had the first one, but I'm going to check. But anyway, well written. I really liked it. Couldn't figure out who did it. The next one I read is, a series. I read the first 4. The 5th one comes out September 8th. This is a bridal shop cozy mystery series. Author is Karen Sue Walker. I really liked it. It was very much a cozy in that, you know, sometimes something happens and you think, like, that would never happen in real life, you know. But if you like cozies, this series was good. I read the first 4. The first one is Murder in White Lace. Next one is Murder in Crimson Velvet. Third is Murder in Blue Gingham. Fourth is Murder in Lavender Silk. Murder in Pink Taffeta comes out September 8th. This takes place in a little town in California called Crystal Shores. I don't know if that's really a place or not. The main character is Max Walters. She's a bridal consultant. She grew up in this little town, started working in this bridal store when she was 16. And then as an adult, she went to New York City and worked for a bridal, big bridal house. Then her mom got cancer, and so she came home. She's an only child. She came home to help her dad with her mom and went back to work for the bridal store that she had always worked in. In the first book, Murder in White Lace, there's a woman in town who is rude and ugly and has made a lot of enemies. She's trying on her wedding gown for the final fitting, and she drops dead. They're in what Max calls the dream room. It's a room where a platform that the brides can stand on, and there's 6 mirrors, and she can see all sides of her dress, and she fell over dead. So that's the beginning of this mystery. What I liked about this one, it's a very much a cozy mystery where things happen. Like in one of the books, a very valuable ring is stolen, and the person who steals it drops it in Max's pocket of her sweater, and she notifies the police, and they don't immediately arrest her because she's got the ring. She says, "Oh no, I didn't take it. Somebody dropped it in my pocket." "Oh, okay." You know, that would not happen. But still, I really enjoyed the books, and the main thing is I liked the characters. I think that is what's important for me. If I don't like the characters, then I don't want to read the book. And I liked every character in all of these books. But anyway, that's a bridal shop cozy mystery, Karen Sue Walker. Fifth one comes out in September. Oh, I didn't tell you, Book to Kill For is written by Harper Lynn, Lin. Have I mentioned The Hope Chest? Carolyn Brown is an author that I recently started reading her book. She lives in Oklahoma, not that far from me. She lives in a little bitty town and has written over 100 books. She writes, her books are, that I've read, are contemporary. There's some romance in them. There's mostly a lot of family drama in them, but very realistic. In The Hope Chest, I pulled something up I'm going to read to you. Hang on. It's about these three cousins, and they share their grandma Lucy. Oh, it's off the page. I'll be right back. I'm just going to hold the cell phone in my hand to film instead of trying to hold it attached to that tripod. That won't hold it up. Now this book, excellent book, The Hope Chest by Carolyn Brown. The story is about three cousins and their grandma Lucy, who has passed away. We don't, she's not in the story too much. But anyway, the three cousins spent a lot of time with Grandma Lucy. Two of them only got to visit in the summer. And one of them, eventually her mother died, and she lived with Grandma Lucy. They all three thought the other two had a much better life than theirs. Probably typical families. The grass looks greener. These three cousins live all over the place, but they come back to this tiny, tiny little town where Grandma Lucy lived, and they're meeting her lawyer in a little cafe that they always went to. Let me find out. Okay, this is her will. This is what the lawyer is there to talk to these three cousins about. The three cousins are all adults now. This is a copy of her will. In simple language, it says that you three grandchildren inherit her entire estate to be held jointly, which is the 2-bedroom house, her quilting shed, the 4.5 acres that it sits on, and everything in the house. The property cannot be sold. She wanted it to always be there in case one of you needed a place to live or just wanted to use it for a vacation home. There's a quilt in the frame out in her work shed, and before any of you can leave, you have to hand quilt it together. She was adamant about the part of the will. It cannot be quilted on a sewing machine, and if any of you fail to work together, then you forfeit your third to the other two. There's a hope chest, also known as a cedar chest, that you will put the quilt in when it was completed. The hope chest is now in the care of Jackson Devereaux, her friend and nearest neighbor, and it will remain in his care until one of you gets married. The person who marries first inherits the chest. Jackson also has a key to the hope chest and will open it for you when the quilt is finished. You can see whatever's inside when you open it, and at that time, contents will belong to you three grandchildren. She didn't even tell me, this is her lawyer, what's in the hope chest, so it's going to be your surprise. They have to stay at this house for a year, I believe. If this is the right story. In one of these books, they have to live in the house for a year before they can and run her quilt store. That's another book. That's another one. But anyway, I guess they didn't have to live in the house for a year, but they have to stay there long enough to hand quilt the quilt. And so they did. And that's how they got to know each other, actually. And by the time, they were strangers to each other. By the time they had the quilt finished, They were family. I really liked this book. There wasn't, I like humor. There wasn't very much humor at all in here. This is more family dynamics, um, little romance thrown in, just a good story. And that's The Hope Chest by Carolyn Brown. I'm going to end it here, guys. If you like to read, honestly, I would suggest any of these titles. I really liked them. And that's all I know for tonight. I will see you in the next video. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.